أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي صدق الله مولانا العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters listening on Revive FM 94.0, we welcome you. The ones that are listening to us on YouTube and on Facebook, we also welcome you. I've got some fantastic guests with me today. It's a family affair today, mashallah. So they're both the brothers that are sat in the hot seat today are relatives of mine. But that's not just their shanakht or their identity. There's a lot more to that, and we'll get into that. So I'd like to welcome both onto the set. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
So, brothers, if you want to introduce yourselves first, if we start with my left, if you can just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Yusuf, 24 years old, and I'm a pilot.
MashaAllah, we're going to get into a lot more detail about the pilot stuff.
The best
That's
kind
really
of
good.
introduction.
That's the best kind of introduction. And yourself, brother?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ibrahim, 27 years old. I work in product in tech. Senior product manager at Boston Consulting Group and co-founder at Dean Developers.
Fantastic. So, mashallah, the reason I decided to get these brothers on is because the line of work that they're in or they're going into is, mashallah, not the common kind of field of career that our people tend to take. So I'd like to firstly start off with your academic backgrounds, if I was to start, and then we'll move on to how you got into your careers and then the interests and stuff outside your careers, with I think a lot of our time is going to be spent on the interests and the hobbies that we have, mashallah. So Yusuf, I go to the gym with Yusuf as well, and Ibrahim's supposed to go to the gym with us as well, but he flakes it quite a bit. But Yusuf, even I think he met one of his teachers when we were doing a set the other day, and even she was not shocked, but she knew that you wanted to be a pilot from day dot. So give us a bit of a background. What's the fascination with flying? And just to let all our viewers know, he's just flown back from Paris. Or was it Calais, mashallah? He was
Yeah, literally.
I was texting him about an hour and a half ago saying, when are you going to arrive, bro? And he goes, I'm stuck in France. So was quite funny. But yeah, just give us a bit of a background and where you studied and the fascination with becoming a pilot, basically.
So standard, did my GCSEs, did my A levels, and I realized like office life is not for me.
Okay.
So then, obviously, being from the background that I'm from, my parents were like, "Okay, that's fine, but you have to go university as well."
Oh, university is a must, yeah.
University is
Okay.
a must, yeah.
Okay.
So I went. I studied physics at the University of Leeds,
Mashallah.
where I graduated in 2021.
During
And-
COVID, then.
Yeah, during COVID. So in my second year of uni, COVID lockdown came, and uni went online. So then I just came back and I just studied from home. And then I realized that, back to the idea that I don't want to stay in an office. So I thought about what I wanted to do, and it was be a pilot. And it's going to sound cliche, but it's your typical story of like when I was really young, we went on a family holiday, and then the pilots actually let me into the cockpit afterwards.
Okay.
So your typical fell in love there. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I always had that in the back of my mind, but it was always about trying to fund it. That was the biggest obstacle. So just trying to find ways to save up money to actually be affordable it took a long time to think of how I wanted to do it. So then what I ended up doing was after my degree, I became a secondary school teacher.
Mashallah.
So I did my PGCE in physics and maths, and I taught physics and maths at secondary schools. And then from there, I saved up the money.
Mashallah.
And then I just spent all of that money at my flight school, where I paid for my PPL, so my private pilot license, where I got that in June 2023. So it was coming up to a year now. So I got my license there, and ever since then I've just been building up my hours and hoping to go commercial.
Fantastic.
Have you taken Omar yet?
No,
I'm scared of heights.
taken Ibrahim.
I'm scared of heights.
But, no, I've not taken Umrah yet.
So we'll go into details of what it entails and what kind of flights that you've taken so far. But if we move on to our second guest, mashallah, Brother Ibrahim, give us a bit of a lowdown on yourself, a bit of your history, how you got into the field that you're in currently.
Yeah, so I received a few university offers. I was actually planning to go to Bristol to study economics, but then I made the decision at the age of 17 that I wasn't going to take a loan at university. So I had to pick somewhere that was close. So I ended up studying maths at Queen Mary. Loved it, alhamdulillah, loved it. Made very good friends, done a lot of really good things. And whatnot, but wasn't really too sure about what I wanted to do in life as a university student. So at the end of second year, me and my university friends, we road tripped through Morocco and Spain.
So a lot of road trips are going to come up, by the way. So be prepared.
So road trip from Morocco to Spain, came back, missed a couple of weeks of lectures at university, and we all collectively made the decision that, listen, we're just going to focus on applying for graduate schemes. So we ended up missing a bunch of lectures at university. Just applying for graduate schemes. I've messaged a few people on LinkedIn as well, trying to figure out what do I actually want to do with my life. And I met up with this guy from Deloitte, actually. And he said to me, consulting is a career for the indecisive, so do consulting. And I wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do, so I went to consulting. Applied for graduate schemes. Haven't graduated with the first. And then started my grad scheme at Deloitte. I was in strategy consulting first, which was a little bit interesting, but not too interesting. I think with all of us here, we like doing stuff with our hands. And I realized that consulting is you're just kind of giving advice and you're not really doing anything more. So then I jumped into software engineering at Deloitte. The benefit of working at big companies, you can kind of jump around. If people like you, they can,
take you into their department.
Take you into their department. So I worked in software engineering.
Can you, for those, so I've heard you, mashallah, saying software engineering for a number of years. I don't have the foggiest what that means. So for those that are listening, and what does software engineering entail? Yeah,
so if you think about technology, like if you take something like YouTube, for example, right? You have somebody who's got the product vision, who's a product manager, which I think about, which is the job I do now. Then you have somebody who actually executes this vision. So the product manager is like, okay, you know what do users actually want? What are the features they want to build? What's the problem that users are currently facing? And they take that and they put into requirements, and then a software engineer takes those requirements and builds them. Software engineering is split between front end and back end. Front end is the kind of visual side of things, so looking at what happens when you tap on the screen, when you click on a video, that kind of stuff. Back end is a little bit more with functionality, data, and those kind of things.
Mashallah. And from the kind of person that I know, I don't think you'd probably enjoy that too much, because
Yeah.
you're more Mr. Outside and outdoors and
Yeah.
Mother
So
Nature.
yeah, it's a bit of what's the word? What's the word when there's two opposing views? Like I love technology. I love working in technology. Conflicting. Two conflicting views where I work in tech. I love working in tech. I think it's one of the skills and one of the industries where you can pick up important skills to give back to the community. And it's something that's very valuable. But then there's also days like, for example, when we go camping together, all three of us go camping, and another cousin who's running a bit late, we'll go camping. But then we put our phones away. It's important to kind of have that tech detox and step away from technology, where you're not scrolling social media, not thinking about tech, nothing like that. You're just in the great outdoors.
Fantastic. I've got a question. So Yusuf obviously lived out. You lived in Leeds for 3 years.
Yeah.
Ibrahim, obviously Queen Mary,
down the
mashallah,
road.
East Londoners, so he didn't need to move out.
Yeah.
What was the benefits and, let's say, the downsides of either? I lived out as well, but I'll stay away from this conversation for now. So benefits of living out and the downsides of living out, and the benefits of living at home and downsides of living at home.
Yeah. You want to go first?
You go first.
In terms of benefits, well, obviously, because I didn't take a loan for university, right? What you see with a lot of university students is they splash the grant, they're buying fresh gowns and all of this stuff. But I had to save that money to actually put it towards university fees. And alhamdulillah, I got a bursary and a grant from the government and from Queen Mary. So I ended up only paying like, I think 4.2 grand per year for my university fees, which was good, alhamdulillah. So one of the big benefits was actually cost saving, not spending that money out, eating at home, that kind of stuff. And I think when I was younger, as we all were, we were a bit reckless, and our parents didn't really trust us. But when I started practicing and I made the decision to not take a loan, my parents became a lot more understanding. So before the age of like 17, where it was like, listen, you have to be home at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., this, that. Once they see what type of friends you have and who you're surrounding yourself by, the amount I was coming home at like 3, 4 a.m., that kind of thing. So I still had a very good university life where I was out almost every single day, enjoying life, the halal bachelor life.
Halal bachelor life. Yusuf?
Yeah, so I lived out, pros and cons in everything. But I think the best thing about living out was it taught me independence. It taught me how to live by myself. It taught me how to take care of myself. And most importantly, it taught me how to deal with money. Because when I had rent and stuff coming in, I couldn't splash out on like the gums and stuff with the grants and whatnot. But the one thing that wasn't like a con, you would say, is that you're very broke.
Very broke.
You're very broke.
That's even if you're living at home as well.
Yeah. But when you go home, you go home to that nice home cooked meals. Like sometimes
makes you, I suppose, appreciate those little things.
Yeah,
like
you do.
Wash clothes and a clean house, basically. Whereas when you're living with roommates and other housemates.
Remember when we'd go camping up in Scotland and our stopover town would be Leeds.
It would be at my accommodation.
It was a trap house.
But yeah, it was so there was a lot of pot noodles. So
mashallah.
But yeah.
Moving the conversation on. So in terms of, it's fantastic to know. And if there's quite a few people, mashallah, watching online, on the socials as well. If you want to leave any questions for the brothers, we will address those questions as well. So I'd like to go, especially because there's going to be a lot of youth that's listening to this as well. You didn't decide to go down the conventional route of going and finding a job in that sense. You went down the grad scheme that you said.
Yeah.
Could you go into a bit of detail for that, for someone that's looking to do that as well?
So generally when I was applying for graduate schemes, the first thing is I had a big support group around me, right? There was about 20 of us all applying for graduate schemes. We were sharing tips about interviews, how to do the tests, all of those things. So I think that's the first biggest thing. Make sure you're applying to jobs that other people are applying to as well, so you can kind of understand what you're applying for, right? The second thing is nobody really knows what they want to do, so I ended up applying for a bunch of roles. I applied for I actually got a job offer to work at Ford in the finance department
in Dagenham.
In Dagenham, yeah. Not Dagenham, it was in Brentwood okay. Down there, right? So I applied for a few different roles, and the good thing about this is that once you get your job offers, you don't have to make a decision straight away. So I actually rejected Ford like 3 weeks before starting at Deloitte, which is perfectly fine. Yeah, obviously, you ruin relationships. I don't think I'll work at Ford again, but it was okay. So that's another thing. The next thing, a piece of advice I'd give is have different tiers of jobs that you want to apply to. Have jobs that you really want, where you spend a lot of time on applications. Have jobs where you don't mind where you're working, and ones where you really don't want to work and you just want to practice. I've done so many interviews and tests for jobs that I didn't really want because I use those as practice for ones that I actually wanted. So I done the Ford interview and the assessment center, all of this stuff first, and then the next day I had my Deloitte. So I practiced all my answers at Ford. And then when I was at Deloitte, it went very smoothly because I tried out everything and I knew everything worked.
On the flip side, there'd be people that get demoralized or, with back to back rejections. But you obviously took it the other way, where you thought, okay, this is me basically practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
Until I go and actually play.
Yeah. I mean, I got so many rejections, man. I'm pretty sure I applied to like 60 graduate schemes and I only got like 4 offers, something like this, right? And getting rejected from job applications, it builds character, let's just say. I remember I applied for Boston Consulting Group where I'm working now, actually. So alhamdulillah, things do work out. But when I applied for Boston Consulting Group the first time around, you spend 2 weeks on the application, you send it off. Within 30 minutes, you get automated response. Yeah, sorry, your application's been rejected. So it's very depressing. But alhamdulillah, things worked out. I ended up working there several years later. So
your first venture into the grad scheme was you went into Deloitte, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so how was the experience at Deloitte?
It was good, alhamdulillah, man. It's a very good Muslim network. There's probably about 500, 600 brothers, so it's a very, very good environment. And because Deloitte's so big, when you're junior, you can jump around. When you're a little bit more senior, it's a bit difficult, but when you're junior, you can jump around. Unfortunately, I didn't travel to any glamorous places. I went to Scunthorpe and Maidenhead and Manchester and Manchester. So I didn't travel anywhere too nice, but alhamdulillah, I did get to travel a bit for work, which is good.
Fantastic. And yourself, so give us those conversations that you were having at home where you were quite adamant you wanted to be a pilot, but mum and dad were like, university jana hai pehle. So how did you navigate that? How was that period? Because I don't know whether has physics got anything to do with becoming a pilot as well, or is that just a degree that was just of interest, or how come you got into physics?
So originally I applied for engineering at university, but I didn't get the grades. They needed I think it was 2 A stars and an A, and I think I got like 3 A's or like 2 A's and a B. So I didn't get into engineering. But what they did offer me was they offered me a place on their physics course at the same university. So I thought, okay, might as well take it, because I did consider applying for physics first, but a lot of people tried talking me out of it because they thought, okay, employability wise, they didn't know sort of the opportunity.
No, but is it not true? Anyone that's got a maths or physics degree can pretty much go into any field of work and they'll get a job. Or is that just a common myth?
No, I think the days have changed. I think before you had to, whether you study your degree and you have to go into that field. When I was at Deloitte, I was working with a guy who studied music at Oxford, and he was working in tech. So I think the days have changed now where you have to study something very specific and go into that field. So, and it's a valuable degree, physics.
Yeah. So a lot of people were saying, oh, what job are you going to get with physics? And so in the back of my mind, I obviously had the pilot stuff. But I thought, okay, if I'm going to do a degree, I'm going to do a degree in something I actually want to learn, not just to get a job out of it. And I think a lot of people now, they're only doing degrees so they can get a job out of it. When I think if you're going to do a degree, if you're not doing something which requires that degree, like medicine, dentistry, or something like that, then I don't think you should just do a degree for the sake of it. You should do the degree in something you actually want to learn about. So that's why I did physics. And I knew like the chances and employability is good enough. So trying to convince my parents that physics was okay, it took a while, but they came around to it. Once I showed them proof, and I think a lot of people just have to communicate that with their parents. It's about sitting down and like Ibrahim was saying before, proving to them that you're responsible enough to make your own decisions. So I've done the physics degree, and it's not, I wouldn't say you need it with pilot stuff, but it does help, because it's not the physics that you learn in the degree. It's sort of the skills that you learn whilst doing the degree. things like problem solving and stuff like that. That's helped a lot when I've been studying for my pilot exams.
MashaAllah. Time is actually flying, so we're 20 minutes already into the show. We're going to take a short break. Someone's phone's gone off as well. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back after these messages. Again, those that are listening on the socials, if you do leave any questions for us, I will put that to the brothers. But we will see you on the other side of this short break, inshallah.
Hey Sainsbury's, do you have any super simple suggestions for suhoor?
Sure, we've got plenty of ideas to help you through the fast. Overnight oats are both fast and flavoursome. Or get cracking before the crack of dawn with some delicious free-range eggs. And make iftar even tastier with the many halal meats on offer. So that's iftar and suhoor sorted.
Need some quick ideas for suhoor and iftar? Ask Sainsbury's. Ramadan Mubarak. Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Subject to availability while stocks last, selected stores only.
तकरीबन 60 मिलियन प्राइमरी स्कूल जाने वाले बच्चे इस वक्त स्कूल में दाखिल नहीं हैं। मयारी तालीम की फराहमी से पसमानदा बच्चों को गुर्बत के मुसलसल चक्कर से बचने का मुसावी मौका मिल सकता है। इस रमजान आइए आपके ताउन से इस बात को यकीनी बनाएं कि हर बच्चे को मयारी तालीम हासिल करने का मौका मिलेगा। मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन के जरिए बच्चे की तालीम को स्पॉन्सर करें। बस हमारे मकामी दफ्तर 12 कार रोड, नेल्सन, BB9 7JS पर तशरीफ लाएं। हमें 01282 723 455 पर कॉल करें या हमारी वेबसाइट www.minhajwelfare.org पर देखें। ताज़ा तरीन वीडियोस और अपडेट्स के लिए फेसबुक, इंस्टाग्राम और ट्विटर पर जुड़े रहें।
Nikah, talaq, counseling on matrimonial disputes, Islamic wills, Islamic law of inheritance, or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service. We provide official certification and our experienced and highly qualified imams are available to provide you with guidance when needed. MQI London is based at 292 to 296 Romford Road, Forest Gate. We are open from Monday to Friday 2 to 4 p.m. or alternatively call us now on 0208 257 1786.
When you send money to your family for Ramadan, send it with Remitly. Because our great rates and low fees mean that more money makes it to your loved ones. Millions of people trust Remitly to send money to Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many more countries worldwide. Ramadan Kareem from Remitly, wishing you a peaceful time. Download the Remitly app. Remitly UK Limited is authorized and regulated by the FCA.
Hey Sainsbury's, do you have any super simple suggestions for suhoor?
Sure, we've got plenty of ideas to help you through the fast. Overnight oats are both fast and flavoursome. Or get cracking before the crack of dawn with some delicious free-range eggs. And make iftar even tastier with the many halal meats on offer. So that's iftar and suhoor sorted.
Need some quick ideas for suhoor and iftar? Ask Sainsbury's. Ramadan Mubarak. Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Subject to availability while stocks last, selected stores only.
ReviveFM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile
and online.
पानी के बगैर जिंदगी का तसव्वुर नामुमकिन है। दुनिया भर में तकरीबन 2 अरब से ज्यादा लोग ऐसे हैं जिनको पीने का साफ और महफूज पानी मुयस्सर नहीं। रोजमर्रा के इस्तेमाल के साथ साथ पीने के लिए इन्हें आलूदा पानी पर इन्हिसार करना पड़ता है, जिसकी वजह से बच्चे या बड़े सब मुख्तलिफ बीमारियों का शिकार हो जाते हैं जो अक्सर जानलेवा साबित होती हैं। इस रमजान मुबारक मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन की वाटर फॉर ऑल अपील का हिस्सा बनिए। आप सिर्फ 180 पाउंड से एक छोटा हैंडपंप नस्ब कर सकते हैं जो 15 खानदानों को साफ पानी उनकी दहलीज पर मुहैया करते हैं। नस्ब शुदा हैंडपंप की रिपोर्ट और दीगर तफसीलात डोनर को मुहैया कर दी जाती हैं ताकि वो जान सके कि उनकी अमानत हकदारों तक मुहैया कर दी गई है। मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन को अपनी ज़कात।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, we are live and back on Revive FM 94.0. On top of that, we are live on our Facebook and our YouTube pages. I've got my 2 esteemed guests, Muhammad Yusuf Saeed and Ibrahim bin Javed, who've been discussing their early life, how they got into the fields that they got into, their education, living at home, living away from home, living in student digs, the pros and cons with that. So I'd like to just take the conversation a bit further on now. So Yusuf, if I start with yourself, mashallah, you mentioned that you ended up doing the physics degree in the midst of COVID. You ended up coming home and you completed your degree. And there was an element of convincing your parents. Obviously, your calling, I suppose, is to be a pilot. So, and then you briefly mentioned that you got them on board, which is fantastic. So, can you let the viewers know what the process was once you qualified and you'd received your money? You'd saved the money.
Yeah.
How you would start with the pilot school, basically, and what that entailed, basically.
Okay, I think it's a really important topic as well, because a lot of people who want to become pilots, they'll do a quick Google search and they'll see 100K and be like, okay, no, this is way too much money. When what it actually is there's many different routes that you can take. So it's not your typical education route where you would do your A-levels, go uni, and then with uni get a job. So there's loads of different types of licenses that you need to get. Now there's sort of the two main ways to get these licenses is, number one, you can take what's called an integrated route, where what we call these white tail schools, they will offer you what they call a 0 to hero package. So they'll take you from having no experience to getting you qualified and ready for a job straight out of flight school. So that's what you call the integrated route. And then you have what's called the modular route. So the modular route is you'll do the exact same things that you'll do in the integrated route, but you will be in control of when and how you do it. And when you do an integrated route, sort of these big schools, they're charging around about £100,000, which is way too much. But you take the modular route, if you do your research properly, you can end up spending maybe about 60 to 70K.
Okay.
That's how much it costs. So again, it's split into loads of different sort of sections, right? And you just do those sections at your own pace. So I chose to do a modular route because it gives you more flexibility. So it allows you to do things on the side. Whereas if you're doing an integrated route, it's a full-time course which lasts sort of up to 2 years.
So you end up doing the modular route, and during that whole period, were you working as well at the same time as well, or how did that work?
So I was working 2 jobs at the same time when I was doing it. So I had a job as a van driver. Mm-hmm. So I was doing home deliveries for Iceland, mm-hmm. and I was using my teaching qualification that I got and tutoring students, which I still do on the side now as well.
And can you just give us a breakdown in terms of, so I'm assuming they don't just hand you the keys and say, all right, let's go sit in the cockpit. How long was it until you actually got on to the cockpit? And then obviously I'm just looking at all the dials and it just gives me a headache. So yeah, I'm assuming they probably taught you all of those things. And then let us know, man, how you first went on in the air. Okay. And did you feel like you were about to crash or anything like that? Just that feeling.
So I paid the deposit at the school, right? And
which school was this?
This is Stapleford Flight Centre.
Okay.
Stapleford Flight Centre. So I paid the deposit, and what they'd done was they assigned me an instructor.
Okay.
So I got on personal terms with my instructor, mm-hmm. and we sort of stayed outside of the school, and it was just me and him speaking to each other, mm-hmm. and getting stuff sorted out. So day one, he gave me the keys, and we got in the plane, mm-hmm. and we went up in we went flying.
Okay, so day one you actually did. But he was flying, I'm assuming.
He was flying. So obviously there's about 20 different things going on simultaneously when you're flying. Mm-hmm. So what it would be, he would give me a book to read. So I would read this book on mm-hmm. how to actually fly the plane. Mm-hmm. So it's broken down into loads of different sections. So mm-hmm. he'd tell me to read up on section 1, right? So I'd read up on section 1, then I'd go in, I'd sit down with him for about 20 minutes before, and we'd do a briefing. Mm-hmm. So we'd do a briefing about what we're going to cover. Then we'd get in the plane and mm-hmm. we'd go flying. So if there's 20 things to be done, on day 1, I'll do one of those 20 things.
Okay.
Then as you progress, you'll do more and more and more until you're doing everything.
Sure.
And he's just there as a safety pilot in case anything goes wrong. So then after you fly a certain number of hours, when your instructor thinks you're ready, he'll send you off to go solo. So you don't have your license at this point, but you end up flying the plane by yourself as a student.
But is there not like a possibility things can go wrong in that sense? God forbid, obviously.
Yeah,
nothing
so
like
you
that,
obviously train before all of these things. So you'll do things like engine failures. So there were so many times where I'd randomly be flying, and my instructor would just tell me to look outside because he'd say, "Oh, it's a really nice view over here." So I'd look outside, and when I turn back and look in, he'll just shut off the plane to simulate an engine failure.
Oh, bro,
That's crazy.
That is some crazy instructor, man.
He'd just turn the
So
plane
he
off.
just lit showed what, like, I'm assuming at that stage it's making the noises and everything, and then
It's
all of a sudden
perfectly
it just
fine.
goes quiet.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Yeah, everything sounds perfect.
Turn the engine
Look
off.
outside, turn back, and go, "Oh, there's an engine failure," and he'd just pull the plug on the plane. So we're trained for that. So you end up doing loads of the emergency landing procedures, which we
You
go
read the
through.
kalma first, I'm
You
assuming.
read the kalma, read the kalma first, then you'd go through the emergency procedures, and you'd sort of bring the plane, you'd glide the plane to land in like a random field, one that you would choose a field, and you'd explain to your instructor why you've chosen that field, and they would approve of the field, and you'd carry on to go and land in that field.
So just asking, it might be a silly question. So the engine's turned off now. You're in the middle of the air.
Yeah.
You've got to bring this plane to landing now. The legs that come out, whatever you call them,
The undercarriage.
the undercarriage.
Yeah.
So if the engine is off, how is that activated then?
So the engine, so just like in your car, when the engine is off in the car, your stereo system can still work because it's being powered by the battery. So we just use the battery, but the plane that I fly or was flying, it didn't have a retractable undercarriage, so the wheels were always out. The whole
Okay, so
time.
even when you're in the air,
Even when
it's
you're
out.
in the air, the wheels
Okay.
are still out. But yeah, so you would keep the battery on, whereas the engine would be off. So you just glide the plane, and when you'd get to like close enough to the ground, obviously we didn't actually land in the field because insurance costs and loads of you end up disturbing farmers and stuff. So when you're about a couple 100 feet off the ground and the instructor deems that you can safely land the plane without the engine, he'll tell you to restart the plane. So then I just restart the plane and just fly straight back up.
How was that? I'm sure you've done this countless times now, so you could do it in your
Hundreds of
sleep.
times, yeah.
But how was that feeling the first time where you just look out the window, mate? It's really nice. I've just turned the engine off.
Yeah. So the first time, obviously, he didn't just surprise me. He goes, "I'm going to do the engine failure now," right? So he pulled the plug, and a lot of you study so hard and you'll practice so much, but when it happens, your mind will just go blank. So first couple times, my mind just went blank, and he had to intervene to help me out. But then once you get familiar with the situation, you get more comfortable with it happening. And then after about the third or fourth time, I was just in my zone, and I was just doing everything as it should have been, and just restarted the plane and would go straight back up.
MashaAllah. I'll bring Ibrahim into it. The pilot stuff will come back to you. So Ibrahim, MashaAllah, obviously known you all your life. And so the information that you've provided as the consultant that you were for Deloitte and BCG that you are now, senior product manager you are, it's in direct contrast to the individual that I see you on a day-to-day basis. So maybe now I realize why you've got so much going on outside your work. You've got a lot going on. So we'll go into them step by step, but I think even you'll admit yourself your most probably proudest achievement outside your work is the creation of Deen developers. And I've seen the work that you've done there and the hackathons, etc., that you do, and you're engaging a lot of new people and not people that are in that field. Give us a little lowdown on what is Deen developers, how did the idea come about, and what do you guys actually do? And it's still running now, isn't it?
Still running, still running, still going very strong. Inshallah, hopefully we secure funding very soon.
Inshallah.
So with Deen developers, the way it kind of stemmed and the way it kind of came about was it was during my first 14-hour shift at Deloitte. I was working very long hours. I was feeling very depressed. I had a kind of thing in my head where I was like, is this what I want to do until I'm 67? Is it just working? Is it just
Probably going
kind
to
of
about 70 now.
yeah,
the way they're
probably
raising
70.
it.
Yeah. Do I just want to continue working long hours until that time, or is there something more to life? So around about this time, I had quite a few friends that were working in the charity sector. So I remember going to my mom and saying, look, listen, I'm going to quit working at Deloitte. I want to move to Pakistan. I want to work in an orphanage, and I want to kind of make a difference, right, with my hands. My mom rightfully said, are you stupid? Is something wrong with you?
I'm pretty sure the chitter came out as well, probably on top of that as well.
Yeah, and then my mom said, listen, is there enough you can do here? Is there enough you can do here in the UK? And then I really thought about it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gaining all of these amazing skills. I'm working for these multi-billion-dollar level clients, right? Learning all of these amazing skills. Is there somewhere I can leverage this and bring it back to the community? So then I set up Dean Developers, and what we basically do is we're a tech for good community, where we build solutions to social problems. So we find problems that exist in society, i.e., we work with like Crisis, the biggest homeless charity in the UK, to find out what problems the homeless people face, building tech solutions around that. We don't
give us an example of that. So what did you do in that sense?
So like for example, one of the problem statements was, how do people without data, how do they find local services, right? So we know in the 21st century, homeless people are going to have mobile phones, but they probably won't have internet. So how do they find local services? So what we ended up building was we built a text message bot where you text a number where you put through like barking food, right? You put down your location and what you're looking for, and it pings you back the top 3 locations in that area with the address, with the number, all of these things, and how to basically get there, right? This was something that was built in like 2 days. So we built like a bunch of different stuff as well. One of the greatest things we actually built was during COVID, when Boris Johnson announced that lockdown was happening. Then he reopened. First, he closes the places of worship.
The Salah places.
Yeah. So he closed down places of worship, and then they had to open all of a sudden. So mosques around the UK, they were very confused and very worried about how do they deal with Jummah when you have like hundreds of people come in with old people, young people. How do you stop the spread of COVID, right? So we ended up building a QR booking system where people can book prayer spaces at the local mosque. And if there was a COVID outbreak, then that particular congregation can be informed there's been an outbreak, stay at home. At its peak, we had like 160,000 users using it on a weekly basis.
Was that just in the UK or was that across
it was just
Europe?
In the UK. It was just in the UK. We built in like 2.5 weeks, crazy hours. Like I was finishing up with my day job and then working on this outside. And me and a bunch of brothers, we were launching and building stuff until like 4 a.m. in the morning, right? And then going to bed and then going to work the next day. Luckily, it was COVID, so we were working from home, which was good. So
let me know. I've heard this from you quite a few times. You've invited me a number of times. I haven't come, which I apologize, but I've on record. I will in the next time you do. What are these hackathons that you do? What is exactly a hackathon? So is that where you get the idea and then you get everyone together to merge and basically build that product?
So at Dean Developers, there's 3 things we do, right? One of the key things is community, building a community around a shared vision of giving back to society by using your skills for good. We've run events at like Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft, all of these big companies, right? And speakers from some of the biggest companies out there.
Mashallah.
The second thing we do is the hackathons that you're speaking about. So what we do is that we find, what we realize is that we have tech skills, we have a community that we can leverage, but we don't understand problems on the ground. So what we do is we find a charity partner in a particular area. Like for example, 2 years ago, we ran one around food poverty in London. So we found problem partners, charity partners, right, who understand problem on the ground. So we went to a bunch of different food banks, found out what problem statements they're facing, brought those problems to a hackathon where we announced to the public and we said, look, listen, we have the charity partner, we have these 5 problems. Do you want to come and volunteer your skills and help build products that solve community problems? Usually we get about 200 people coming down to basically, we have a lot more applications, but we have to be quite particular about who we take because of budget restraints and skills restraints and all of those things. Recently we've done a hackathon for Gaza.
The ESIN.
Yeah. So we built a bunch of different solutions. We had about, I think, 220 people from around the world basically work together over the course of 2 weeks.
How do you manage that? Mashallah, like to say 220 people, but getting them all to come together, number one, is hard in itself. But on top of that, then their vision is all aligned as well, and they're working towards a cause. That's fantastic, mashallah.
I think the thing that we realize is that this epiphany that, you know what, am I going to be working until I'm 70? Everybody has this. Everybody innately thinks Am I just here just to make money? Am I here just to have a good job and buy a nice house and buy a nice car and these kind of things? People want to give back. People want to make a difference. As Muslims, we have this innately within us that we want to give back and we want to do something, right? But for a lot of people, they don't know how to do that. So what we do is we act as the bridge. We're like, okay, you're working at Google, you're working at Facebook, you're working at these big companies. But when problems occur in the world, do you want to just be the person that gives money, or do you want to donate your skills as well? In Islamic tradition, as we know, that sadaqah jariyah isn't just about giving money, right?
Of course.
It's about donating skills. And what we want to do at Deen Developers is we want to change that mindset where when a problem exists in the world, people aren't just throwing £1,000, £2,000 at the problem. They're like, listen, I have 10 years worth of experience that I can leverage. I want to build a solution to this that solves this particular problem. And to kind of unite people around that. As Muslims, we innately have this feeling. We're just the kind of bridge and the glue that brings everyone together. And it clicks in people's mind that, you know what, I can make a difference. I can change the world, and I can be of use, right, to the ummah.
MashaAllah. And in terms of all the people that do join your hackathons, are involved with Deen Developers, is it just exclusively Muslims, or you've got non-Muslims on board as well?
It's a mix, actually, because what you find is that Deen Developers, although we're very much like bearded brothers and sisters wearing hijab and this kind of stuff, right? It's important when you're doing. One of the key reasons why we set up Deen Developers is because what we want to do is when problem exists in the world, people look towards the Muslims to see how they solve the problems. When we see in our Islamic tradition of 1400 years, when it came to scientific discoveries, when it came to mathematical discoveries, anything like this, Muslims were at the forefront. And people always said the Muslims are leading the charge. Similarly, at Deen Developers, we want Muslims to be at the forefront. We want non-Muslims to see that Muslims are at the forefront, but we want them to get involved as well. So like our hackathon for homelessness, working with crisis, we had non-Muslims come down. I was still working at Deloitte at the time. A bunch of people from Deloitte came down.
Brilliant.
When we ran our food bank hackathon about food poverty in London, we had a bunch of non-Muslims come down as well. And it's actually beneficial for them as well. They come to our hackathons. They have an interesting story to tell during their interviews, and they land jobs off the back of it. There was a guy who came, non-Muslim guy. He was stacking boxes at Amazon. And he'd done a design boot camp 2 years ago, couldn't land a job. He came to our hackathon. We put him in a team of Muslims, developers, product managers, and he was a designer, and they built a solution together. Within 2 months, he landed the job, because when he went to the next interview, he said, listen, they ask you, generally in tech interviews, they'll ask you, what's the product you're most proud of that you've built? Instead of saying, I built a calculator app or I redesigned the ASOS website, they can say, I built something that tackled food poverty in London. I built something for this food bank. And it's an interesting story to tell. So we find a lot of non-Muslims come to take benefit from us. And inshallah, maybe one day in the future, they see, Islam is the truth.
Inshallah. Look, we're really, really short on time. There's only about 20 odd minutes left till we open our fast. I've got one question for Brother Yusuf before we take a short break, and then we'll come back and talk about external hobbies and stuff like that. Yusuf, now, alhamdulillah, I think you're almost fully qualified as a pilot. Just two questions for you, as brief as you can as well. Number one, what's the ultimate aim?
Okay.
Obviously, you've done the training now. You're in the midst of your training. What's the ultimate aim? Do you want to be a pilot for the rich and famous? Do you want to be a pilot for one of these mainstream or these flagship airlines, etc.? That's number one. And number two, kids might be listening to this, parents might be listening to this, that are interested in their child or themselves going through this route. What advice would you have for them?
Okay, so the main obstacle to getting in, obviously, is the money first, which I think a lot of people puts them off, but that's not actually the main obstacle. The main obstacle is the training itself. It's not easy. People think that, okay, once I've got the money saved, job done. The hard part starts once you actually start the training. But I would say if you are dedicated to it, and it has to be something you are dedicated to, then you can do it. And sorry, what was the second question?
What's the career path taking?
Career path, hopefully I'm aiming to work at like a flagship airline at the start of my career. But once I get a bit older and sort of not really interested in people as much anymore, and hoping to...
So just one question before we do go to, what's the difference between the small aircraft that you're flying right now, which is 2 people up to 4 or 5 people, compared to what the Ryanair one is, compared to the big Boeings, compared to the A380s. Would you have so for instance, if I've got a driving license, I can drive up until maybe a van, but if it's a trailer or something like that, I'll need to take further lessons, etc. So how does it work with the pilot license?
It's day and night difference. So
Okay.
what I have is called an SEP license. So
Okay.
it's single engine piston aircraft.
Mhm.
So these are piston engines to fly planes which have one engine.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to fly like Ryanair, they fly Boeing 737s, they're dual engine. So you need to have a multi-engine rating, and you need to get what's called a type rating on that aircraft. So once you get into the commercial world, every plane is different, right? And they fly completely differently. So you need separate training for that type of aircraft.
Mhm.
Now that training is about 4 months in itself. So every Ryanair pilot, they paid for what's called their type rating,
Mhm.
and then they trained for 4 months flying a Boeing 737.
Wow.
Now, if you're looking at like an Airbus A380, again, you would need a separate type rating for an Airbus A380, which is another 4 months of training. So every time a pilot, what they do is they wait until they get a job, then they do the type rating with the airline.
Mhm.
Because let's say I get a type rating on a Boeing 737, but the job is for an A320. Legally, I can't fly.
Can't do that.
You can't fly that A320. So it's all about the training on the specific type of aircraft. So
but a lot of these airlines have more than one aircraft anyway, so you just go from each fleet basically.
But Ryanair, so sort of these budget airlines like Ryanair, Wizz Air, EasyJet, they keep one type of airplane. So Ryanair will have the Boeing 737s, whereas EasyJet and like Wizz Air, they'll have Airbus A320s only.
Mm-hmm. MashaAllah. Guys, we're going to take a short break again. We've only got 20 minutes left, and we still got to talk about scouts. We've still got to talk about camping, which is the main one. We've still got to talk about keeping it halal, living in London, retaining our faith. So we've got about 20 minutes until Iftari. We're going to take a short 1 to 2 minute break, and then we will see you on the back of these commercial messages. Jazakallah.
Thinking of selling or letting your property?
letting
Need
your
someone
home?
reliable to
With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
Minhaj Sisters UK are proud to host their biannual retreat Al Tazkiyah 2024 from the 15th of November to the 17th of November. This year, the retreat will take place in Yarnfield Training and Conference Centre at Stoke-on-Trent. We are pleased to announce that we will be joined by Dr. Ghazala Hassan Qadri, President of Minhaj Women League UK, who will be our special guest for 3 days. Join us for an inspirational and fun-packed weekend. To find out more, please visit our website www.altazkiyah.com.
Looking to get your finances in order? MR Accountants has you covered. We provide a full range of accountancy and taxation services, including annual and management accounts, self-assessment tax returns, VAT, bookkeeping, and payroll services. We ensure you're kept up to date with the latest legislation, and our client-focused approach helps us plan your business finances from savings to investments. We are MR Accountants. Visit our website at mraccountants.com or call us on 0203 432 9138.
Nikah, talaq, counseling on matrimonial disputes, Islamic wills, Islamic law of inheritance, or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, live on ReviveFM 94.0. Those listening in their cars on their way home, we say salam to you. The ones that are watching live on Facebook and YouTube, we've got a new addition to the team, mashallah. Another family member has joined, mashallah. So please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ahmad. I'm Umar's uncle. So there's a fair
I knew he was going to drop that one.
Bit of nepotism going on over here.
There's only a day difference, right?
For those watching, I'm looking a bit smart. That's because I've just come back from work.
What do you do?
I'm an AI consultant in the civil service.
MashaAllah.
Working for
MashaAllah.
the Department for Environment and Rural Affairs.
Fantastic. Would you like to give us a bit of information what your job entails?
Yeah, so I'm an expert in AI technologies, and I use those technologies to improve the ways of working in the civil service. So one of the projects that we're working on is on illegal trade. And instead of having 3 guys in the office looking for illegal ivory, we have an AI bot that I've led the development on, and that's doing the work for us instead.
So that when you hear that AI is going to take over the world, is there truth in that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We should all be very worried.
Is that why it be started doing the sewing and stuff? Yeah.
Aspiring carpenter.
Aspiring carpenter.
We're all going to go back to the blue collar jobs.
Really?
I think so.
And how long do you think that's going to be? 5 years, 10 years?
Hard to say, but yeah, it's called the 4th Industrial Revolution, and it's right on our doorstep. So we have to be a bit wary of how we're going to.
I think with AI, the benefit is that it 10x's employees.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having like one person doing one job, that one person can do 10 people's jobs.
Multiple jobs, yeah.
So I think there'll be job cuts, but I don't think I think AI in that space it will do very well. I think there will be a lot of job cuts.
There will be.
Not to scare the audience.
And what you think in the technological field and
as a whole,
software engineers and stuff like that, all those jobs you think will be surplus to requirement?
The thing is, it won't be surplus to requirement. I just think that you just need less people to do more,
Mm-hmm.
And it frees us up to do the other things that are more interesting at work. Instead of doing tedious menial tasks, AI bots will do that instead. It probably won't replace being a pilot, though. We still need the pilot.
Yusuf, you're secure then, bro. You're secure. All right, I'm going to move on to the topic that I think is probably one of the main reasons why everyone wanted to come onto this show as well. I was talking about camping. So alhamdulillah, the 3 brothers in front of me, if you can maybe individually tell me your love and fascination with camping, and let us know collectively the places that you've gone and camped, why you like it so much. I think Ibrahim goes at every opportunity that he has. The other 2 brothers maybe less so. But tell me about Norway. Tell me about Ben Nevis. Well, we can go into Ben Nevis as well. Tell me about Galloway National Park, and all the other places that you've been. And why do you like it so much?
Camping started, was actually Ibrahim's idea. So we found cheap flights. We found £8 flights to Norway.
£8?
£8.
Okay.
£8
return.
£16 return.
£16 return. It's crazy. Okay.
£16 return flights to Norway in the winter, and Ibrahim was just like, "Oh, we should go." And I always say yes to everything, so I thought, yeah, it'll be a good idea. So we'll go. And this was
just to let all the viewers know, I could clearly remember this. This was the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder second fight. So we're around Yusuf's house, and we just go into the garden, and I just see this massive tent, and they're just trying to pitch it up, and we're going Norway, and it's going to be snowing. And
the thing is, we watched like one how to camp beginner video. We slept one night in Yusuf's garden, and that was it. Then we went out and camped on a mountain in Norway.
Desi bear grows.
Yeah.
Desi bear. Okay, so tell us about Norway. So that was the first time you guys went?
Yeah. It was real eye-opening. I think it humbled us very quickly. It was kind of introduction through fire. So you go through the hardest experience, and then every experience after that becomes quite pleasant in comparison.
Easier.
So the first couple of days we were figuring things out. The first night was the worst. I think Yusuf had the hardest time because we were sleeping on a bit of a slope, and it was raining. And the rain was all gathering towards where Yusuf's bed was. So, alhamdulillah, he was very patient. He didn't complain, kind of got through it. I was a bit adamant on how hungry I was and how I'm not going to eat Cheetos for lunch. So I got a fire going. And once you get some food in your belly, I feel like that changes everything. You can have a fresh perspective the next day.
The thing is as well, I think that first night for us was really difficult. But if we didn't stick it out for that first night, we would have never loved camping. Like it's been, I think it's like 4-year anniversary here recently. Of when we actually went to Norway. If we didn't film it that one night and instead we shut up shop, we slept in the car and we kind of just booked hotels for the rest of the place, I think we would have hated camping and just never gone back to it. So it's a life lesson to stick out doing something and figure out whether you like it or not, because alhamdulillah, we figured out we do like it.
And then after that, I joined the team, and we ended up going Scotland a couple of times. So I think the first time we went to Scotland was lovely. So we won't go into too much details with that.
How did you find it as your first time?
So it was, I love the outdoors. So if for me, if I was to go on a holiday, the beach holiday and just laying on the sand all day, that really doesn't fascinate me. For me, it's all about going out and exploring. So having a look at, for me, the best thing is if I can just see scenery that's just magnanimous. And for me, that's my holiday. Of going from place A to place B. My wife doesn't like it because she's just like, you're just traveling, man. What the hell? I want to relax. But I do like, to get as much in as I can when I am on holiday. So I really enjoyed it. Even the second time when disaster struck, which I'm sure one of you guys can go into details with what happened. Even after that, it hasn't really put me off. And I think one of the reasons I put this show is because we're going to get this in writing or in recording, that we need to set a date for our next camp as well. But you guys want to go into a bit of detail about what happened at Ben Nevis? Because that was legendary, no doubt.
You go for it.
You remember? A few of the bits are a bit hazy. It was we didn't sleep properly, so.
So I think one of the problems that we have in our team, in our camping crew, is Ibrahim's love for spontaneity and just going with the moment. Like in some circumstances, it's a really good thing. In others, it can be quite disastrous. I think this was one of them where we didn't check the weather. It was a lot windier than we thought.
The thing is, we checked everything. We prepared for rain. We prepared for everything. The thing is, nobody checks wind speeds. Wind speeds, I think they were hitting like 80 miles per hour. And
we were in the mouth. We were literally on the mouth of the waterfall as well.
Yeah.
We were
and then our mouth fell into the waterfall as well.
I did, and it reminded that you should always have a spare change of clothes because you do get a bit bedridden when you don't have your socks with you.
The thing is with camping as a whole, even though we've had disastrous experiences, I think the key thing is that it makes you appreciate things in life. Like I'm sure everybody can say this. Like us living in the West, we take so many things for granted. You want food. 20 minutes Uber Eats to your house. You want a fridge. It can come to you tomorrow with Prime. But when you're camping, everything you have to work hard for. You have to spend time finding firewood, starting a fire, maintaining the fire, cooking on the fire, finding a spot to actually camp as well. And through that process, you might be hungry right now, but you're probably going to eat 4 hours down the line. So you appreciate that. And similarly, even though we had a bad experience at Ben Nevis, the thing is, when we came back and we had to cut a trip short because all our gear got wrecked, the tent went bendy. We had to.
So just to paint a little picture, my tent got completely obliterated. Yeah. These three were in the other tent, and it was raining non-stop and it was dark. So I literally just stood under a tree where there was no branches. And it was just raining, and we just waited for the sun to come out so we could just make our way back to the car.
And us three we invited Omar into our tent as well, but he didn't want to join us. Yeah. Us three were sleeping nice and soundly. Then all of a sudden we hear, and then he calls our names, and then we're forced to come out of the warmth.
Yeah, it took you guys 5 minutes to come out as well.
Because there's three things you need in it, like wherever you are: shelter, warmth, and food. Mm-hmm. And this was if you give up one of those things, it's okay. But Ben Nevis, all three were gone. It was cold.
We couldn't get the fire going.
We were hungry.
We were cold, and we were wet.
And our tents got destroyed.
So just generally, so wrapping up, in terms of camping, what's the fascination behind it? Why do you like it so much? And why would you, I'm certain you would recommend this to others as well. Why would you recommend it?
Yeah, I think for me at least, the thing is living in a world where technology dominates everything. Where you're constantly glued to your phone, where you're constantly like your head's down. Even like working in London, I feel as though working in London really hardens your heart. Like you're rushing quickly to work, you want to jump on the train quickly, you want to get home quickly. Everything's very fast paced. Mm-hmm. And to actually appreciate London and appreciate life as a whole, you have to take a step away from it. So taking a step away, going to the mountains, going to nature, where you get to really reflect on the beauty of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mm-hmm. and really reflect on like how majestic everything is, right? It softens the heart, and spending that time in nature away from technology, not being glued to your phone. I'm pretty sure we have a rule again, like not being on your phones during camping, except to take pictures, and that kind of stuff. Although I remember the married lot when you guys came that time we went camping, us single lot, we weren't on our phones, but you guys were constantly calling your wives.
To let them know that we hadn't been eaten by a bear or something, so she had to confirm that. mashallah, so there's no doubt that just being in touch with Mother Nature and stuff, and especially with the life that we live in London, fast-paced society, etc., it's really, really important that you get away and you do things that are in touch with Mother Nature. We decided to do some nature days, boys.
Yeah.
Where are those? Where's our next nature day?
I think
And
nature
we should set it here on this when we're going for our camping trip next. And if there's anybody that's interested, they're more than welcome to join us as well. We'll take a big group with us. We've taken a few people in the past as well. Some have really enjoyed it. Some have decided that it's not for them. But I for me personally, it's something you should try definitely at least once in your lifetime. And then even something simple as bread is really, really tasty when you've been hungry for so long. You just get to appreciate the small things in life, alhamdulillah. Anything else that you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah.
And
so
set the date.
Camping can be a bit difficult sometimes. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, a lot of planning. But nature days, they're very important. I feel like getting that greenery around you, getting that recharge, you don't realize how much you need it until you've actually done it. So we've made a goal to do it every month. It doesn't always work out. I think after Ramadan, it's probably going to be our next one. But yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
Nice.
Would you like to add anything?
Pretty much more of the same. Like everyone should definitely give it a go. And it's fine if it's not for you, but at least you can say that you tried it.
Fantastic. Ibrahim, I'd like to ask you a question. You're heavily involved with Scouts, mashallah. And Revive will be starting a Scouts group very soon as well. We'll be taking your expert knowledge in that. Give us a little lowdown or a breakdown on who you work with in terms of Scouts and what kind of things that you do, and the importance of that as well.
So I'm a scout leader for Explorers, which is 13 to 17 year olds at 7 Good Maze.
Mashallah.
And for me again, somebody actually messaged me on Twitter saying, "Look, listen, do you want to be a scout leader?" And at first I thought it was just taking kids camping all the time. And I said, you know what, these guys are always busy. If I can go camping with other people, I think it'd be nice. But what you realize is that it's a lot of like grassroots community work. You're spending a lot of time with kids, and I think it's very important to build to be part of the change. Obviously, we grew up in an era that's pretty rough, right? Dean Developers is more like wider community work, but to get involved with grassroots community work in your area is very, very important. And to kind of like we were once troubled teenagers as well at one point, right? And somebody came along and kind of guided us along the right path and whatnot. And I think it's very important to kind of play that role as well, and to be there for others. So Scouts is amazing. We actually had an event yesterday, Iftar under the stars, where a bunch of people came.
Gilwell Park,
Gilwell Park, which was really nice. So Scouts, if it wasn't for Dean Developers, Scouts would be my main community project, because it's just so amazing. It's about allowing for kids to build happy memories with Islam, so that when they do turn of age, when they head to university, when they start their lives as adults, they can look back and say, you know, I had really fun times doing this and doing Islamic stuff in nature. And, you know, we do a bunch of different stuff. So we teach kids how to start fires, how to camp, how to be outdoors, all of those things. But then we help them build soft skills as well, like leadership, public speaking,
communication,
all of this stuff. I done a woodworking course teaching the kids how to make a birdhouse, which was good. One of my other friends done a leather making course. So like teaching like random stuff where kids get to experiment and figure out what they actually like. I think it's very important.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. And obviously, as we get older and older, we realize that there's a distinct lack of role models that the youngsters have, especially in the areas that we've grown up or we live in. It's very easy to drift away and go onto the wrong side. And the wrong side, unfortunately, the bright lights and the glamour of it, it's very enthralling. Quick money and all the things that are entailed with that. But for us, I think it's very important what you mentioned as well, that if we have genuine role models, and the people that are leading these Scouts groups, etc., they are genuine role models that kids can look up to, and they can see that, okay, this brother's on it with his deen as well, and he's on it professionally as well. Because people don't really see that. They say, oh, there's that breakdown, oh, he's just a Maulvi. But it's not like that. You can retain your deen, and you can do all the things in London in the halal way as well.
Yeah,
so
I can say this as well, alhamdulillah, being part of the tech community. I know a bunch of very successful brothers who've raised like 20 million for their startups, startups valued at 200 million. And they're some of the most humble, and
Subhanallah.
Islamically minded people. Where when you look at them, you wouldn't think so because they're so successful. But alhamdulillah, they're very, very influential and very inspirational people who are very Islamically grounded and rooted in Islamic values.
MashaAllah. We're coming up to a close. We've got a couple of Liverpool fans here. Are you guys winning the league this year then? Champions. Well, the quadruple, thanks to Man United, the quadruple is no longer happening. So is the treble still on, or what's the expectations?
Nah, definitely not treble. And I don't even think we'll win the league, but I just think we've got to send off Klopp the right way, because people will say what they want, but he came and he changed the club completely.
Yeah, we were a depressed bunch of people before Jurgen Klopp. Brendan Rodgers wasn't too good before. They had like Roy Hodgson and these kind of people were terrible. But now, alhamdulillah, he's done us good.
Alhamdulillah. And Ahmad, what team are we following this year? Ahmad, just to let everyone know, he's usually just decides to pick the team that's top. So I'm assuming you're supporting Arsenal this year.
So I think people might relate to this. Sometimes you don't grow up in a family where football's a big thing, and you have to make an educated choice as you get older.
What, on a yearly basis?
you have to play the field, see which one kind of fits your values the most. And I think Arsenal does. They're London, they're red, they value youth, they value homegrown talent. And Arteta's just killing it this year. I think Klopp's going to get humbled. I think he's going to be sent home, back to Germany with nothing in his pocket. And between Guardiola and Arteta, we've got the Premier League, Champions League on lock.
Alhamdulillah. We're still a Man United fan, so I'll try to stay out of this conversation altogether. There's the last couple of minutes left now before Iftari. I'd like to give everyone, number one, I'd like to thank everyone for coming down. I really appreciate it. If everyone could just give a brief message at the end with maybe your contact details for anyone that's interested to become a pilot, anyone that wants to go into scouting or wants to become a product manager or go down the tech route, or anyone that wants to go into the civil service. On behalf of ReviveFM, I'd like to thank you guys for coming down, and just in brief, if you'd just like to
so I post a lot of content of my pilot stuff on my Instagram. So if you follow my Instagram, so it's at Yusuf Saeed.
Can you spell that for us as well?
So YUSUF SAEED _.
Just underscore.
Just underscore, yeah.
And you can see Yusuf basically jumping onto the planes, and you might see me on one of them as well in the not too distant future, if I can basically be brave enough. Thank you for coming down, Yusuf. Ibrahim?
Anything tech related, inshallah, if you want to get involved with Dean developers and build solutions that solve world problems, go to deandevelopers.com. If you want to speak to me personally, probably reach out to me on Twitter, Ibn Khalid _. I post a lot of stuff about woodworking and non-tech related things. And yeah, that's me.
Before I forget, because even though we're finishing up, you're taking some people to Pakistan this year as well.
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
just give a little plug for that as well.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, we're fully booked out, which is good. Alhamdulillah. But it's always been a thing I wanted to do, take people to the mountains of Pakistan.
So from Islamabad all the way to
Islamabad all the way to China border, Hunza, Fairy Meadows, everywhere.
All right, so
that's good.
I'm gonna hold you to that. Once you've done that, you need to come back and you need to let the viewers know how that went. And we'll share some pictures and videos of the whole trip as well.
If you do want to register, you can go to roots.tours. There's a sign up link there, inshallah, if you're interested, which is good.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And Ahmad, last but not least.
Thank you. I talk a lot about AI. I've become a bit of an expert these last couple of months, and share a lot of content on my LinkedIn. So it's Ahmad AMAD-AHMED. And you can find me over there. If you have any questions, if you have any business problems that you need solving, I'm here to help.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure to be hosting family members. We'll be going now and having a very, very nice iftar. I hope everyone has a great iftar themselves and a great evening. And please keep it locked on ReviveFM 94.0. Jazakallah and Assalamu alaikum.
This Iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh Restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford, and Plashett Carpets in Upton Park. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعليك توكلت وعلى رزقك أفطرت. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله في الأولين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا ومولانا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford, and Plashett Carpets in Upton Park.
Yeah, yeah.